Here's my Wijk aan Zee round 11 report. There were 4 decisive games and I'm going to take snippets from all 4 of those. So first of all, Wely So against Ivan Saric. Saric not having such a great tournament. Wely So, on the other hand, really doing extremely well, and we can see after 22 moves Wely has an excellent position. Just check out those knights, beautiful positions, and that classic Spanish bishop cutting down towards Black's king. That knight is under fire, and well, it's understandable that under such pressure Saric decided to exchange off pieces. And here he played a very risky move. He played bishop d5, and you can see so many black pieces hanging here. I mean, I think he was in trouble anyway, but this loses by force. First of all, let's see his idea. It's quite clever, but maybe just a bit too clever. After bishop takes bishop, Black actually manages to win back all his material here. And if queen takes knight, then rook takes rook check, and queen takes bishop, and Black is okay and has succeeded in chopping off lots of pieces. But yeah, it's hardly surprising when everything is kind of hanging by a thread that basically Wely manages to upset Black's coordination. Queen is attacked. It has to move back, and now White takes the bishop. And there's a difference. If rook takes knight in this position, we take. Now, for a start, Black can't exchange rooks and play queen takes. That's not possible because the queen has moved back. And here, if rook takes bishop, rook e8 check, and everything hangs together for White. It's check, and then we take the rook. So basically, after bishop takes bishop in this position, White was a piece up, and in a few moves' time, Saric had to resign. So Wely So having a great tournament and keeps up the pressure on Magnus Carlsen. Okay, next game we have Giri against Luc van Wely, the all-Dutch battle, and very complicated game, but somehow Giri always had it under control, and we see that in this position. Van Wely has 2 rooks against a rook, knight and bishop. And that in these kind of positions, if the knight and bishop are going to succeed, if they're going to win out, then it's very important that they have stable squares. Squares where they can't be pushed around, and that knight is protected by the pawn, and that bishop is also very well protected. Now, Van Wely has this g-pawn, but so long as White is careful, then it's possible to keep everything together. So first of all, rook f3, that keeps tabs on this pawn. Now, Van Wely decided to try and activate this rook. At the moment, it really can't join in the struggle, and you can see, in fact, that those rooks are split, and Black's coordination just is shot through here. It's not surprising that this should be lost. He tried rook b7, trying to sort of spin this rook round here, but it's all in vain. So bishop f4, pushing the pawn forward, and then the rook goes behind. That, of course, is the spot for the rook to control the pawn. That means this rook can't easily move away. And, well, probably best for Black is to play king here. White wins this pawn, Black wins the f-pawn, but technically this is a winning position with the extra pawn. Really, the 2 rooks aren't any match for these pieces. Instead, Van Wely played rook e7, I suppose a last try, just preventing rook e3, but after knight e5 check, in fact, the game ended. Van Wely resigned. If king f6, then bishop g5 wins the rook on e7. If king f8, then bishop h6 check wins. And finally, if king e8, rook g8 check is rather a picturesque checkmate. The knight covers these squares of the king. So a very sound victory from Giri, and yeah, that does does him no harm at all in the standings. And now we come on to Hou Yifan against Bahadur Jobava. Well, Jobava had his usual slightly unorthodox opening, but got a reasonable position. He's already declined an exchange of queens, which would have led to a drawn endgame. He kept the queens on. He's looking somehow to try and disturb White's king. He played h4, so that really induces g4. And here, again, if he wants to exchange queens, then the endgame is probably drawn. But instead, he was on the hunt again. He kept the queens on, checking White's king. And here, well, there's a threat of queen e6. And if he nudges back with king f8, then he's still well and truly in the game. If queen e6 now, then bishop takes f4 and black should be okay. Instead, unaccountably, he played king back to g8. Of course, king would be safe, very safe on h7, given one more move, but there came queen e6, and Yifan took the bishop, and there is no perpetual check here, and in a few moves Bahadur had to resign. Poor guy. You know, people talk about his unorthodox openings, but actually it seems to me that he often cracks at some crucial moment quite late on in the game. That seems to be a recurring pattern. Okay, moving on, our final decisive game. Now this was a fascinating encounter. Radoslav Wojtaszek against Ding Liren. It was a King's Indian, really complicated. You can see that Ding has advanced these kingside pawns, and that's enabled him to block out Wojtaszek's bishop on h2. Now, Wojtaszek gave up a pawn to get really active play, and you can see, I mean, the rest of his pieces, apart from that bishop, are fantastically placed. But Ding is somehow holding it together, and given half a chance, if he can, well, certainly get in knight d4 attacking the queen, or maybe knight c7 and simplify and maybe exchange off the bishop on d5, then he could be doing well. But Wojtaszek seized his moment. Bishop takes pawn, so he manages to break free. Of course, if pawn takes bishop, then queen h5 is mate. So knight takes bishop. I beg your pardon, he could have played knight takes, Ding could have played knight takes bishop. I mean, this probably leads to rough equality. For example, here, and queen f6. And although black's king's a little bit exposed, in fact, black's pieces are so well placed here, he shouldn't have any problems. But instead, Ding played a very interesting move, rook f8, pinning. Wojtaszek took on e6, so this was taken. And if bishop takes, then rook takes bishop should be fine for black. So bishop takes, pawn check. If queen takes, it's very complicated, but queen takes rook is fine for white. So king takes, I mean, it looks really scary for black, but he is a rook up at the moment. And now if bishop takes rook, then black exchanges queens, and again black is just about okay in this position. There's going to be counterplay with these pawns later on. So Wojtaszek sacked the exchange. And the king is still running around. Now here he has a draw. The players actually repeated moves like this. So Wojtaszek could have a draw if he plays queen e6 check. But I think quite understandably he played on. Queen takes pawn check. So he grabs another pawn. So he's now got 3 connected passed pawns on the king side. Now Ding blocked with the queen. I mean, the endgame is interesting to look at. At first glance you think, well, okay, it only needs for white to get these pawns rolling and this looks brilliant for white. But black does gain counterplay here. And that a pawn could be very fast. Could be possible to create a passed pawn. So instead, I think correctly, Wojtaszek withdrew the queen, centralised it, and also with black's king running around, seems sensible. So queen e5. Again, Ding wants to exchange queens. Another check. Again, Wojtaszek repeats the position. He's toying with a draw. Does he want to draw? But no, he decided to play on. Okay, now it's Ding's turn. A check. Now he decided to bring the king back. Probably sound. And that opens up the path of the rook. So f3 all looks normal. And again, Ding is desperately trying to activate this rook. So wants to bring the rook down here. And if Wojtaszek wants to draw, then I think he could play like this. Blocking the rook. The rook wants to come down again. Again, block the rook out. And you can see that's draw by repetition. But no, Wojtaszek played for the win, bringing his queen out actively. But this allows an exchange of queens. But Wojtaszek is thinking he's exchanging queens under favourable circumstances because his king is better placed and it's easier to advance his pawns. Well, let's see what happened. He could have played g4 here, but I can sort of understand why he didn't, because suddenly this kind of position is really tricky. Black gives up a pawn but creates a passed pawn. So it's a big race, very hard to calculate when you're short of time. So Wojtaszek blocked out the rook, and then he wants to advance. So Ding played rook e6, very good move. His king doesn't matter here. The only important thing is activating the rook, so he wants to bring the rook round via d6. King g3, okay, so Wojtaszek wants to bring his king up. He's still nervous about advancing his pawns. He'd rather bring his king into play. He's blocking out this rook and he wants to bring the king into play before advancing these pawns. And in that way, he's hoping to quell any counterplay on the queen side with these pawns. But I think it's here that he missed Ding's excellent move, really superb move, a5. And with this move, suddenly the tables start to turn. Of course, bishop e4 is possible, but this activates the rook, and this is very dangerous. Wojtaszek played bishop b7, and now a superb move. This is Ding's idea. b5. If a takes b5, then the a pawn rolls. Nothing to stop that one. It's an express. Wojtaszek took with the c pawn. By this time, he's running short of time, and now the c pawn rolls, and actually there's nothing that he can do about this pawn, and the king tries to come over, but it's all in vain. It's too late, and after rook d2, Wojtaszek had to resign because c2 comes, and then, well, black wins the bishop, and well, the pawns are going nowhere. Well, a tragedy for Wojtaszek, and I feel very sorry for him because he really tried hard to play for a win there, but brilliant defence from Ding, in particular that move a5 was fantastic. Now I should give you the other main scores. Carlsen drew against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave today. Carlsen tried with white, pawn up in an endgame. Vachier-Lagrave defended very well. So Carlsen has 8 out of 11. Wesley So now has 7.5, only half a point behind Carlsen. Then Giri, Vachier-Lagrave and Ding are on 7. Crucial games tomorrow. Ding has the white pieces against Carlsen. Giri has the white pieces against So. The tournament is still not over.